Hi, I'm John Lacey,
And I'm Sam Proof.
and we're here to discuss this week's video and live streaming news. We've just enjoyed Thanksgiving and Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Today I thought we might focus on something that may be a little bit kinder on your wallet and look at some free software. So we're going to be talking about OBS Studio, which of course is open and free and open software that you can use for video recording and live streaming. And I think today we really want to focus on different sort of plugins that we can actually use to extend the functionality of OBS. But before we get into that, Sam, maybe if you can help our viewers sort of differentiate a little bit between the plugins and scripts and widgets.
Sure, yeah. When people talk about different ways to modify OBS, they're going to say plugins or scripts or widgets or apps. And we should start off by widgets and apps are basically third-party softwares that exist outside of OBS. Things like Streamlabs or Stream Elements, where you get a bunch of stuff on their site and you can implement them either through API connections or browser source overlays, things like that. Plugins and scripts are both things that happen inside OBS and are just a little nuanced in their differences, where scripts are just literally a block of code that the scripts tool in OBS calls up to run. And you have like a little readout to do whatever things. It's usually smaller things like countdowns, like dynamic countdowns and things like that. So there are a lot of really cool scripts. Go look for those. But we're going to be talking about plugins. Plugins are chunks of code that are dropped into the plugin folder of OBS and are natively brought in. So it essentially just becomes a part of the software. I hope that helps.
Absolutely. I think that is a good way of describing it. So again, if you haven't experienced OBS, the place to go for all the official OBS stuff is obsproject.com. If you head over to their forums, they've got a resources section and you can actually look at the OBS Studio plugins that are available there. It looks like they've got 163 in that particular repository. So I think we might talk a little bit about our favorite plugins this morning. And again, there are so many out there, but I just want to call out some of the ones that I personally use and I just find really, really useful. So my first favorite plugin is OBS ASIO. So ASIO is audio stream input output, and I'm fortunate enough to actually have Rodecaster Pro, sort of the original version. And the way you work with the audio that comes out of the Rodecaster Pro is you sort of have two options. You either just have a stereo track of everything that's going on there, but you do also have the multi-track options. And the OBS ASIO plugin actually gives me the ability to bring in those as individual audio sources. So I've got things like a sound pad, which I can actually have as its own audio source within OBS, and that lets me do all kinds of things that I can sort of combine it with other plugins, so that, you know, if I hit a button on my sound pad, for example, it'll actually bring up something visually on my screen. And it also helps me, like if I often have pre-recorded material in as part of my stream, and if I head over to that particular scene and I'm playing the video, it just helps with the fact that my microphone is not going live at the same time. So if I need to clear my throat or cough or whatever, that can be really, really useful. So that's amazing. I've been using that for a solid year and I would be lost without it. So Sam, can you tell me about some of your favorite plugins?
Yeah, I'm going to start off with, this is one I use on multiple streams. As you know, I do personal stream, I do the kitten cam, and one of the most important things to me is being able to take that content and utilize it in other places. So I want to bring up a plugin called Source Record. And what Source Record does, as opposed to the native recording feature of OBS, is it isolates a specific source or even a group of sources. So when you're doing your stream on OBS, if you're a gamer, you have a lot of these overlays like last sub or recent donations, and they pop up and you got that Streamlabs zombie running across your screen. if you were to do like the clipping feature on Twitch or just your normal record on OBS, you're going to get you with that zombie running and it says whatever it says, and any of the other overlays, sound overlays, things like that. Source record will let you isolate just your video feed and record that locally. You can also do it as a replay buffer, so you could enter parameters like for replay buffer, for anyone who doesn't know, it just buffers a certain amount of video constantly. So if you put 30 seconds, the minute you do the clip feature for replay buffer or the save feature, it'll take the last 30 seconds. You can do the same thing with the source record. You can do this for multiple sources depending on how good your PC is, if it can handle it. So if you're a game streamer, for example, you could have a separate source record of the game and of your camera, so that later on you can do a high quality version of that without any overlays.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I must admit, I do use that periodically, but I think, and the way that I generally apply that is by going to either the scene or the individual source and applying that as a filter. The only thing I would say is it can be a little resource intensive. So
Yes.
once you've finished doing what you want to do with it, make sure you go in and just turn that filter off until you need it again.
Yeah, definitely.
And I can guarantee that I've got extra scenes recording this morning as we talk that I won't even need, but I just haven't had a chance to turn off yet. But never mind, that's fine. It is really a great feature though. So I guess my next one, and again, I'm very audio centric today for some reason, but another one that I really do like is the Waveform Visualizer. So this will actually give you the ability to produce an interesting sort of waveform in the way that we sort of have seen with audio players over the years, just to create a little bit of interest on your screen. And there's all kinds of different sort of options within the one that I particularly use. You've got bar and stepped graphs, circular versions, a curve graph, and I especially like using this and the another plugin which I'll talk about a little bit later in relation to sort of my start and end screens. I guess one of the things that sort of caught me by surprise when I first started streaming was just appreciating that there's a bit of a lag between what I do and when it actually reaches the destination. And I think sometimes when you first start off and you've said your last sentence, you can hit that stop streaming button straight away and it'll cut you off mid-sentence because it hasn't quite reached where it needs to be. So I like to have that as part of my my sort of start and end screens for my streams, just so I can see visually where, and I'll fade the audio out because I have a bit of music playing at the time, and I can see visually when those things have actually stopped reaching the destination. So it's a really cool, fun effect. I'll show you it in a little bit. Actually, we'll do that in a second. But Sam, tell me a little bit about your second choice today.
It's funny because you've done all audio and I think I've done all visual production stuff. So my second plugin is the Move Transition, which is a really nice addition to anyone who's doing more complicated scenes and switching between scenes and things like that. So Move Transition, and I feel like I'm just going to scratch the surface of what this does, will essentially add like a more dynamic actual move to your bits. So if you have a picture in a picture right now, you probably see the two of us. If I then did a move transition to just a large solo on me, instead of just a hard cut from this 2-shot to a 1-shot, it would just zoom in real smooth. And you can give it parameters to, ramp up at the beginning or ramp up at the end, so it starts slow, goes fast, or vice versa. You can do it to multiple layers and sources and things like that. It's just a really nice addition to make your production look just that much more professional.
It is incredibly smooth, actually, because it'll look at the current position and then the end position of the shared elements between those two scenes, and sort of just tweak them ever so slightly. It is very, very sexy, I must say. So, and moving on to my third, and again, it's an audio plugin, although, it does have a bit of a visual aspect as well. So this is actually scale to sound. And again, this is very much, and I'll show you this in a second so you get a better sense of how this actually works. But So essentially, it basically just takes whatever you want to apply it to and sort of pulsates to the music based on the volume. And again, I probably like no amount of me talking about this will do as much justice as me just showing you these two features. So Waveform Visualizer and Scale to Sound in context. So let me just do that really, really quickly.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, so and again, like it's a very very simple thing. And again, because I'm using the OBS ASIO plugin, it's treating the sound pad itself on the Rodecaster as its own input, so it doesn't react to me speaking from my mic input. Although I don't actually have it on that particular scene, but you can sort of see how you can very easily sort of take a few elements and put them together, and create something that's maybe a little bit more engaging visually. So Sam, tell me about your third plugin. I'm dying to know which one this is.
Yeah, so my last one is called Directory Watch Media, which doesn't sound like much of anything off the gate, but we previously talked about the replay buffer and how that works. One thing I want to say about the source record is that it will allow you to designate a specific folder for those things. So what Directory Watch Media does, it looks for a specific folder and lets you pick like the oldest or newest file from that directory. So if you wanted to do a real quick and easy instant replay, there you go. That's all set up for you. You just use those two things in conjunction. You can frame that instant replay however you want, and it'll be ready to go because it's looking for the most recent file.
That sounds really handy.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, I must admit I'd never heard of this before you told me about it. But like I have this terrible habit of downloading a plugin 12 months ago and never updating it. And you were telling me earlier about this Starscape Creator Studio. Can you connect the dots for me on that one? That sounded really intriguing.
Yeah, no, this has been something that time and time again, as you said, you'll download a plugin and not know that they've released an update. So Starscape Creator Studio, aside from not being the easiest thing to say, takes care of that for you. So it straight out has the Discover tab, which lets you look for new plugins. It's just all of the ones that are available for OBS. It'll show you all of the ones you have installed, and then you can go to this Update tab in the middle, and if there's one ready for update, you just update it. You're going to want to make sure OBS is closed when you do that. It'll prompt you to do it otherwise. But yeah, it's a really quick and easy way to make sure that you have the latest updates. I love it.
Nice. I'm definitely going to have to check that out because, like I said, I had not heard about that one, so it's really cool. So, I mean, I guess we've shown you our 6 favorites at the moment, but certainly head over to obsproject.com, check out the resources section, and see some of the other plugins that can be quite helpful for you in terms of producing your live stream. Sam, where can people learn more about you and watch your content?
Sure, you can find me as @SamProof on just about any social media platform, but especially head over to Twitch or YouTube and find me there. I'm streaming most days on the weekdays in the morning and dropping content periodically on YouTube.
Nice. And if you want to catch up with anything I'm up to, head over to johnlacey.com. We've got all the links to all of the things over there. So thank you for sharing your plugin suggestions, Sam.
Thank you, John.